أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord, cherisher, nourisher, sustainer and master of the universe, the most gracious, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya Allah, it is only you that we worship and it is your guidance that we seek. Ya Allah, keep us in the straight path. Ya Allah, show us the choice of blessings. Ya Allah, show us the mercy. Ya Allah, guide us. Greetings, salam, salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's time for Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association and hosted by myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah khair for joining me on this program. Today's topic for discussion is good eating habits after fasting, and our special guest is Danielle Roberts, who is a registered dietitian. Danielle, good morning to you. Thank you for joining me on the program this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Danielle has 17 years experience in practice as a registered dietitian. She's working at Prime Human Performance Institute at the Moses Mabida Stadium and Life Interbeni Hospital. She's a sports performance nutritionist to the Sharks rugby team for the past 15 years, and her passion is gut health and focusing on balance to improve her lifestyle and prevent chronic diseases. Danielle, as I say, thank you for joining me. Let's just start by, maybe you can just explain to our listeners who or what is a dietitian.
Yeah, so a dietitian, I think, often gets confused with a nutritionist.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at what does a dietitian do, it's actually a medical degree. We study a Bachelor of Science for 5 years at university with the goal of working actually in a hospital. So we study to be really what would be called a clinical nutritionist,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a dietitian. So a lot of patients that I might see, newly diagnosed diabetes, people with kidney failure. I work a lot in ICU, so I work at a private hospital, actually just around the corner at Life Interbeni Hospital.
Okay.
And so a lot of medical conditions. And, that obviously then converts into my practice. A lot of people just have very poor gut health because we're not eating well, we're very stressed. And interestingly, in this fasting month, one of the best things for gut health is actually fasting.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Now, I'm going to talk about gut health during the course of this program. But what are some common nutritional challenges that people face after fasting, and how can they be addressed?
Well, I think probably I would imagine the number one thing from some of the clients that I see after fasting is overeating. So I think, from not eating during the day for a full month, people then just go a little bit too crazy on foods that they have missed. And then overeating can cause a lot of digestive issues. So especially when you're not eating, there's a lot that happens in your gut. And when you overeat, people can get a lot of bloating. They can get a combination of constipation and diarrhea, irritable bowel. So that can be, I think, probably one of the biggest problems. And then I would say deficiencies, because, let's face it, you actually haven't been eating properly for a month. There are a lot of clients that I see who are actually, they find it difficult to wake up early and eat substantially in the morning. So a lot of people have nutrient deficiencies, like a real lack of energy. It could even relate to people getting like that ankylosing on the side of your mouth because of vitamin B deficiencies. Probably very drastic would be what we call refeeding syndrome. So there are some women who might use the opportunity to lose weight. They're really not eating well. Of course, remember, you're not drinking anything in the day either. So refeeding syndrome is when all your electrolytes really go out of balance and can be quite dangerous actually when you start eating again. And then the last thing would be some metabolic changes. So some people also notice quite a few changes in their hormone health, and even, believe it or not, a lot of people can actually gain weight. They can store fat during fasting, I think because the body sort of goes into sort of a mode of starvation. The stress levels can go quite high.
If I understand you correctly, uh, correct eating habits, balanced diet, etc., after fasting can avoid all these issues.
Yes, absolutely. I think instead of rushing out and just going to fried foods or going to eat ice cream and all the things that you really want to eat, I think it just has to be a little bit more slow. I think you need to help allow your body to adjust a little bit slower, if I can say that, to healthy eating, and supporting sugar levels as well. You might find a lot of people, especially people with insulin resistance, especially people with diabetes, their sugar levels might have dropped a bit low. Now you go eat a big meal and your sugar levels go sky high. I think also eating a little bit more balanced and even maybe slightly smaller meals, more, I don't want to say bland food as in not spiced or anything, but not going for the deep fried chips, rather going for the baked potato sort of thing, can also help to prevent digestive problems. So really just easing into balance. When we talk about balance, we're talking about having some carbohydrates, which is your rice, your potatoes, your bread, having some proteins, your meat, your chicken, your fish, and of course, my favorite thing is adding some vegetables and salad.
So we need to change the spelling each day from EAT to EID.
Yes.
It's not going to be an eat day. Because I think that's when we indulge the most. Now, how does fasting affect body's nutritional needs, and what are some key considerations for post-fasting eating habits?
Yes. So I just want to say, when you said on E, do you know at the hospital how many people we see after Eid where they collapse?
Okay.
And it's just because they've completely overindulged and they come into hospital and it's sort of people think, oh, they've had a stroke. But they haven't had a stroke. It's actually that their sugar level has just gone up so high that they've actually then passed out. So it is quite a thing. We see the same thing after many celebrations, a similar thing in December as well. But yeah, just I think what we need to focus on is getting in some good calories. That's really important because at the end of the day, while fasting, the amount of calories is a lot less. Okay, so I think people just need to make sure they're getting in enough calories to be able to function in the day, especially if you're now going to be active. So a lot of people will have not done a lot during fasting and they will then increase activity. So it's important to get back into making sure you're having enough calories to sustain whatever activities you're doing in the day. And then protein. So like I said, protein is your meat, your chicken, your fish, your eggs. It's legumes like beans. And I think protein is very, very important. What I find generally in practice is that people are not eating enough protein anyway. And often if you had to ask someone, well, what do you eat for breakfast? And they'll say some butter on toast. And then what do you eat for lunch? And they'll say, oh, cheese sandwich. And then dinner, maybe they're having a veg curry. There's absolutely no protein in that at all. And so protein is so important for us because it makes our neurotransmitters for our brain, it makes hormones, it makes enzymes, it helps build lean muscle. So I do think it's important that people remember that, especially after a month of not eating a lot, not reaching a protein target, to really try and every time you eat, think, could I add an egg? Could I add a bit of cottage cheese? Could I add some chicken to this meal? Just to increase protein levels. And most people will see, if they really focus on protein, is that actually they start to realize they have energy. Women will say, gosh, my hair is really growing, my nails are really strong. So I think that's one of the most important thing. And then also just to put all the nutrients and electrolytes back, which I think we are still going to talk about.
Remember, this is an interactive show. If you have any questions for our dietitian in the studio, you may pose them to us via WhatsApp on 060 904 1056. I repeat, 060 9041056. Questions on good eating habits after fasting. Now, Danielle, what role does a balanced diet play in helping the body recover from fasting?
Yeah, so I think, we've sort of mentioned already
Mhm.
that it just helps get you back into how you were eating. But I do really want to encourage people, because you have been fasting, and hopefully with fasting, I always sort of say to people, it's a month where you're looking after yourself, you're trying to treat your body well as well. And so don't take that all and just throw it all away. Really try to break that fast with moving forward with maybe better habits. And like I say, that's really trying to make healthier choices going forward.
Mhm. Let's talk about hydration, electrolytes. How important is hydration after fasting, and what are some tips for replenishing fluids and electrolytes?
Yeah, so I think hydration is a really big one, because people who are practicing fasting are not drinking anything in the day. And quite frankly, we all know here in KZN, it's been very hot,
Mhm.
February, March. And so fluid loss is quite a big problem, sweating. And then, of course, you cannot replenish any of the liquid during the day. So that can cause problems with the kidneys, like organ health, if you are dehydrated. So you really have to be mindful of that. And then, of course, dehydration can cause symptoms like fatigue, it can cause headaches, it can cause dizziness.
Mhm.
So I think it's very important, because now we still have a week of fasting, that when you wake up in the morning, to make sure that you have at least 400 to 500 mils of water
Mhm.
with an electrolyte in it, which I'll talk about. And then when you break your fast, also really to make up that that liquid, whether it's 1 liter or 1.5 liters. And what I normally, like a really fabulous trick, and you should try this on yourself, is just to weigh yourself after your meal. So in the morning, once you've had something to drink and once you've eaten,
Mhm.
okay, before you actually start your fast, is stand on a scale and see how much you weigh.
Okay.
And then before you break your fast, stand on the scale again and see how much weight you have lost.
Okay.
Okay. And then whatever that difference is, so let's just say it is half a kilogram, that means that you need to drink 1.5 times that weight, so 1.5 liters.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think if you don't hydrate properly, then it's just going to have this cascade effect where people are just going to feel so tired.
Now, I know many of us, what happens after we break our fast and until the morning, we consume a lot of water.
Good.
Even during the prayer, we have water. After that, before sleeping, we have water. In the morning, we have water. So it just tries to sort of replenish or build up the reserves, if I can put it that way.
Yes.
Of course. And then I'm not going to add this because, but I'm going to say we're then going to have a cup of tea, which is diuretic, and that's it.
Correct.
Yeah. But you are listening to Medical Files 060-904-1056. Uh, you spoke of electrolytes. What are some natural sources of electrolytes that can help replenish stores after fasting?
Well, I mean, if you just have to go into a shop and look at all the electrolytes on the shelves, it's actually quite baffling. And they're also quite expensive, when the most natural electrolyte that we have is sodium, which is salt.
So, okay.
But for whatever reason, dietitians and nutritionists and everyone else out there keep telling us not to eat salt. So they're telling us not to eat salt, and then they're making electrolytes and making us buy the sodium.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I think when we get told that, well, don't eat salt, we're not really talking about the sodium that the bit of salt that you might put on your food. We're actually talking about processed foods, which is loaded with sodium. But when we're talking about electrolytes, the most natural electrolyte that you can find is sodium, which is salt. So you can make your own. So you can take your liter of water and put about a quarter of a teaspoon of salt in that, and then maybe half a teaspoon of sugar. And that is the most incredible natural electrolyte drink you can use. But then, of course, the place where you really get electrolytes, so which would be sort of potassium, magnesium, chloride, but especially your potassium, is fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
So a banana is very high in magnesium, very high in potassium, same as an orange. I don't know if oranges are particularly in season, but a lot of your fruits and your vegetables, but especially fruit. If you think about fruit, it's got a lot of potassium and it's got a natural sugar in. So it's one of the best things actually that you can have to naturally increase your electrolytes. And just remembering that electrolytes are so important for our nerve and muscle function. And just my daughter the other day, she's been swim training at school, and she was exhausted. Gave her a bottle, 500 ml of electrolytes. 40 minutes later, she felt amazing. And all the listeners, I encourage you, if you're ever feeling tired or ever have a headache, have but at least half a liter. Have 500 ml of some water with electrolytes in, and I almost guarantee you'll feel absolutely incredible.
Thank you for that, Danielle. We're going to take a quick ad break. We'll continue the other side of this.
Radio Al-Ansar. Salam everyone, I'm Pims, and here's the easiest treat to enjoy for iftar. Whether you call them bhajjas, dalchis, or pakoras, just one pack of taco chili bite mix, a splash of vinegar, and enough water to make a batter. Make it thick or thin. Add the
Not that one. No, yeah.
I have a lot of problems in my stomach, burning stomach. When I fast, I'm fasting. I am fasting, but I have a lot of problems with my burning stomach. I have to press my stomach and stay on my stomach for a while. I fast a little bit of wind, and then, but I don't eat that much. But I do eat banana and boiled egg. But I don't have cold drinks now. I used to, but I don't do cold anymore. But I don't know why my stomach burns. In the morning time, my stomach burns a lot. It burns and burns and burns like I've got a disease. But I have to press my stomach and hold it for a while. What could be the cause of this?
Is it your field? Okay, so can I play that during the show?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
On which the Quran was revealed became the best of nations, and Rabbul Kaaba. If you let the Quran touch your life, you will become the best of this ummah. The Prophet said, خيركم, the best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it to others. Let the Quran touch your life.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
WhatsApp us now on 060 904 1056.
You're listening to Medical Files with myself, Faizal and Suleman, and Medical Files is brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa. Our topic for discussion is good eating habits after fasting. Our guest is Danielle Roberts, a registered dietitian who is practicing in Durban. Question has come to us via voice note. Let's listen to this question and Danielle will try to answer it. Yeah.
I have to press my stomach and stay on my stomach for a while. I pass a little bit of wind, and then, but I don't eat that much. But I do eat banana and boiled egg. But I don't have cold drinks now. I used to, but I don't do cold anymore. But I don't know why my stomach burns. In the morning time, my stomach burns a lot. It burns and burns and burns like I've got a disease. But I have to press my stomach and hold it for a while. What could be the cause of it?
Okay, thank you for the question that you posed. Daniel, maybe you can deal with it. But just remind our listeners that we encourage questions that are typed instead of voice notes because we don't have time to listen to the voice notes during the show. And we've got to set them voice notes before we play them. But in any event, then we can deal with this.
Yeah, so it definitely sounds like this listener has gastric reflux. So she definitely would have reflux disease. She might be making a lot of acids. She might even have stomach ulcers. So I highly recommend that she goes to see a gastroenterologist where they would do a scope. Because often now what happens if you've got reflux, when your stomach is actually empty, then now your body is releasing obviously juices and stomach acids and stuff, and then it's burning. So that could be the possibility of her pain. And usually if you do suffer with gastritis, with reflux, you would get a medication it's a protein pump inhibitor that would actually stop your body releasing that acid. So it could be sort of the hunger from fasting, or it could actually be what she's eating as well in the morning before she starts her fast, because there are definitely some foods that cause gastritis and cause reflux. And I don't know if she'll like this, but it's often very spicy food. So spicy food causes a lot of reflux, so it can cause a bit of a flare-up. So it depends what she's having in the morning. As well as she did say, though, boiled egg and banana. Banana can be a bit of a trigger food for people with reflux because it sits quite heavy on the chest as well, as well as certain oils. But actually, it could even track back to what is she eating in the night before, because you're eating, and of course, one of the biggest things with gastritis is to eat, and then if you're going to sleep soon after 2-3 hours, and you're lying down, then of course she could have a lot of acids. Then she wakes up, eats again early in the morning. So it could actually be that. It'll be interesting to see if that resolves after fasting. But I do recommend she goes to see a GP and a gastroenterologist.
Maybe before another question comes from Robert, it's a request. So can you please repeat the electrolyte recipe?
Yes, so it is a liter of water and then a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. And it's actually meant to be a teaspoon of sugar, but I prefer half a teaspoon of sugar. And I think the sugar is obviously gives it a bit of energy, helps your body absorb the salt.
If you're diabetic, you can take the half.
Yes, you can. I mean, it's a liter of water.
Okay. Another question that comes through is that I suffer from high blood pressure and I've been told not to consume salt.
Yes. So I think the thing is that we're so fearful of salt that we're told that we cannot have any salt. But if you sprinkle some salt over your food, you actually can't put that much over before it actually becomes unpalatable. So that little bit of salt is okay. Obviously, if you have high blood pressure, we say maybe don't add salt when you're cooking and at the table. So choose one of them. You could add more herbs and spices to your food, so that's also providing flavor, so using less salt. But really, actually, when you've got high blood pressure, we're really talking about foods that are preserved, that have got a lot of salt. So if you pick up a bag of chips, any brand of chips, and look at the sodium, you must always look at the sodium, you'll see hundreds to 1,000 milligrams of salt. Same as if you pick up a smoked meat, a ham, a cheese, anything like that, prepackaged meals, takeaways. That's actually what people with high blood pressure need to stay away from.
So Lawrence, for the past few weeks, I've been suffering with a metallic taste in the mouth. What could be the cause, and what remedy can one take for that?
So this sounds like a classic detox. Okay. So one of the best ways to, there's no such thing as a detox diet. Actually, you have a liver, and your liver is your detox organ, and it can do all the detoxing on its own. So nothing that you take really, like I said, makes you detox. So your liver does it all on its own. But how does the liver start detoxing your body? Well, the moment you stop eating, then your liver's got time to do what it really wants to do, which is to detox. So now, if you don't eat for definitely it's over 12 hours, you're fasting, I would say, at the moment, because it's summer.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't eat for that length of time, and of course it's repeated days, we're now into week 3, then your liver has actually started detoxing your body. And so one of the signs of detoxification is it could be a fairy tongue, it could be a metallic taste in the mouth, it could be headaches. A lot of your females will notice their skin should start looking really good. That's a sign that your body's detoxing as well. And fatigue, also a sign of detoxification. So definitely that's what it is. So I think what I would say to a listener is that she should be happy that she's getting rid of potentially heavy metals.
And obviously, is there any remedy for it?
No, not really. I think she just really must drink a lot of water. It could be a sign that maybe she had toxins to lose, and I think then after fasting, she really needs to follow a good, healthy, balanced diet that supports her liver, and that looks like a lot of leafy greens. So the liver really, really loves spinach, the cruciferous veggies, which is cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, rocket leaves. So I think if she tries to include a lot of these, and to be honest, raw is better. So topping up a raw broccoli into a salad, making a pickled cauliflower, making a beautiful cabbage salad, adding rocket to your salads. That type of foods added will support your liver.
Should we be doing these type of topics when we are fasting? Because I'm getting hungry listening to it. Okay, a message comes from one of our brothers, Abbas Sheikh, says, Salam, how much of salt per liter? I think you did answer that, but maybe can you
It was a quarter.
And how often do you take it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a what you could drink 2 liters a day. I mean, I absolutely love electrolytes. I never used to take them. I train quite hard, and about 4 months ago, I thought instead of just taking electrolytes while I'm training, I'm actually going to drink them in the day. And I would say it's changed my life in terms of energy levels, incredibly actually.
When you started the show, you spoke about gut health, and you think that's very close to you.
Yes.
Let's discuss about gut health. How does one maintain it? What are the problems with it?
I think one of the biggest things I see in practice and at the hospital is poor gut health. So poor gut health is signs of bloating, constipation, diarrhea, or both. It could be cramping, and it could be a diagnosis of diverticulitis, celiac disease, the lady earlier who had gastritis. All of this shows us that we've got gut issues. And I think it's because our diets have changed so much over the years. We're eating a lot of fast foods. Our diets are very high in omega-6 or seed oils. That's probably the biggest cause of poor gut health. And our diet is very inflammatory. So inflammatory foods is eating too much gluten, having too much dairy, using too much seed oils, being this sort of a sunflower type oil, and takeaways and convenience food. So it's causing inflammation in our gut. And if we have inflammation in our gut, then we're not actually able to absorb nutrients properly. And then a lot of people will even find that suddenly they are insulin resistant, or they have diabetic, or they become diabetic, or they're unable to lose weight because it's very difficult to lose fat when you've got inflammation in your gut. And so what I love a lot is to actually help a lot of women, I see a lot of women, but clients, to improve their gut health by removing sort of trigger foods that are known to aggravate the gut. And then we really nourish our bodies. I think that's what we've forgotten to do. The good old food that comes out of the ground and off a tree. Nourish our gut. The gut absolutely loves a lot of veggies and salads and fruits. So everyone will have heard the term probiotic. So probiotic is a live bacteria that's really good for your gut. And then how do you look after the probiotic? Well, a probiotic needs to eat prebiotics, and the only place you get prebiotics is from the fiber in veggies and salad. So when we change our diet, remove triggers, add a good probiotic, and then feed it with the prebiotics, veggies and salads, which people have forgotten to eat them, then over time, about 4 or 5 weeks, you really can heal the lining of your gut. And it actually makes quite remarkable improvements on people's health.
Many times you see supplements that are offered and tell you, this is going to clean out your gut and this is going to happen. Your attitude to it.
Yeah, so I think I'm not a big fan of supplements. I do quite a bit of DNA testing, and I find there when it's sort of in your DNA that maybe your body is unable to absorb vitamin B, fine, then we'll go towards something like that. Or some of the doctors that I work with won't just routinely prescribe vitamin D. Have you checked your vitamin D? So if you've checked your vitamin D and your vitamin D is under 20, you are a candidate for vitamin D supplementation. I had a lady the other day, her vitamin D was off the charts. It was so high because 5 years post COVID, we're still worried about vitamin D. Everyone's still taking vitamin D, and you cannot get rid of vitamin D. It's toxic. So it stores itself in your fat cells, and that causes a whole host of complications. And how do you get rid of vitamin D? You can't. You just have to wait for your body to slowly eke it out. So with supplements, I just think it's very intimidating going into a store and seeing all the different supplements. I feel if you're eating properly, then you don't really need that many, you know. So if you are pregnant, you might need extra supplements with folate. If you are someone who's incredibly active or highly stressed, you might need a bit of vitamin D. I think if you're eating enough protein, enough veggies, salads, fruits, carbohydrates, and some good fats, then I think you'll be okay.
Questions seem to be pouring in. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Excellent program. My son has chronic fatigue, was an exercise junkie before Ramadan, cannot fall asleep. Please assist. I have lots of cramps at night. I think it's a separate question. Okay, can we deal with that?
Yes, I wonder if the chronic fatigue sounds like it's just now during this month because he did a lot of exercise before. So that sounds like a protein issue. I think a lot of people don't realize how much protein they actually do need to eat. So the guideline actually is 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram that you weigh. All right. So if he weighs, let's call it 60 kilos, he needs 90 grams of protein a day. And to put it into context, it gets a bit complicated, but 100 grams of chicken is only about 20 grams of protein.
Okay.
All right. So chronic fatigue is usually a case of overtraining, and overtraining could be that he actually was doing too much exercise, but really we also get sportsmen who do lots of exercise. So overtraining is actually a lack of good recovery nutrition. So if you're training really hard, then ultimately he possibly wasn't having enough calories, wasn't having enough protein, and wasn't having enough carbohydrates to fuel his training before and then after to replenish his stores. And so maybe he's come to a halt with everything and it's all just hit him, and he's suffering with chronic fatigue. The cramping, he also asked about cramping.
Yeah, I have lots of cramps.
Yeah, so cramping is such an interesting topic. I think, we still almost don't know really what causes cramping. I think at the end of the day, electrolytes has a lot to do with it. So it might be really worthwhile for him to go and get a good electrolyte and have 2 of those a day and see if it helps. Because cramping could be magnesium, it could be sodium.
Okay, Salon is suffering from lots of wind, top and bottom, stomach pain, etc. Shukran.
Yeah. So this is classic gut health. And from what I know with fasting, from a lot of my clients, they said those that are really on a good path and they really want to stay healthy during fasting, one of the biggest problems is when you break your fast and it's all the fried foods. And I don't think people understand how bad oil is when you heat it up to a high heat and you deep fry those foods. It's really toxic to the gut. It damages the lining of the gut, and then that is what causes the bloating, the cramping, the wind. And so I think we often think, broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage causes wind. It doesn't. The wind is because your gut has got a lot of inflammation. So that specific person really needs to remove those triggers, which is definitely a seed oil, and slowly try to incorporate gut-friendly foods.
A woman is perimenopausal and since then her stomach is expanding alarmingly. What can she do?
Yeah, so one of the other things I do a lot is hormone health. So you know, your hormones are made of protein.
Mhm.
And again, I'm going to ask her how much protein is she eating. So if she's eating Weet-Bix in the morning, and then she eats an apple, and she has a salad, and then she has a biscuit with her tea, and then she's eating her dinner, then ultimately at the end of the day, she's probably only having 30 to 40% of her required protein a day. And if your hormones are made of protein, how can you expect to make any if you're not eating enough? So what works really, really well for hormone health is to increase protein levels, and also that's going to help increase lean muscle mass. So I also would then highly recommend to set up some sort of exercise program with a bit of resistance training. And resistance training doesn't mean now you've got to go crazy into a gym and lift big weights. It could just be at home doing some squats, doing some push-ups. I mean, there's so much available to us now online. Doing that along with the protein, the moment a woman increases her lean muscle mass, it'll increase her metabolism, she'll lose fat, the protein will help her body to make more hormones, and her symptoms of perimenopause will go away, along with the gut health, because having good gut health is really also going to help perimenopause.
Thank you, Danielle. The marketplace awaits us. We'll continue after this.
We'd love to meet you and pay us a visit. Radio Ansar.
Krishna is just pouring it.
This Ramadan, join African Muslims Agency to provide meals of mercy in 23 nations across the world. Feed the fasting for 120 rand per day. Provide a grocery hamper for 1,800 rand per month, and feed a community for 19,000 rand per day. A single meal can turn hunger into hope, from Gaza to South Africa to Malawi and beyond. Help AMA to set a table where there was none. 23 nations, one table, every meal a mercy. When the month of Ramadan arrives, the doors of mercy are opened. Be Muslim. From our home to yours, Simplex Radio wishes you, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a blessed Ramadan. May peace fill your hearts and homes. May your du'as and fasting be accepted. And may Allah shower His blessings on you and your loved ones. Amen. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Al-Ansar Outreach Weekly Helium Distribution. Join us every Saturday during Ramadan for a heartwarming helium distribution at our PNB branch, 240 Ortman Road, Dubai, every Saturday in Ramadan. Time 1:15 p.m. Where the Al-Ansar Foundation, PNB branch, come share in the spirit of giving. Everyone is welcome. Radio Al-Ansar, Durban, 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM.
WhatsApp us now on 060 904 1056.
Medical Files on Radio Ansar, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa, and hosted by myself, Faizal Suleman. Our topic for discussion: good eating habits after fasting. Our guest is a registered dietitian and practiced for 17 years, Danielle Roberts. 060-904-1056. Danielle, we haven't even discussed half of what, or two-thirds of what you're supposed to discuss, but the questions are pouring in. Salam, Jazakallah for a wonderful and informative program. For the past week, I have been experiencing pain on the right side of my tummy and my lower back, and the pain does not want to subside. I am fasting and it's difficult to take pain tablets. Jazakallah, your advice, please.
Yeah, I would. So I mean, that could be definitely the pancreas. It sounds like it could be gallbladder. Depends how healthy this person was before. It could even just be wind, but I don't think so. You know that sometimes the craziest things happen when people fast. That it can suddenly cause something like gallstones, or it can be that the pancreas is inflamed. So a lot of the questions that we've got today again is related to gut health. And I just think it is a bit of a shock, I think, fasting. So especially if, and I don't know what his diet is like normally, but if his diet is burgers and takeaways and Coke, and all of a sudden that's come out, then I do think that it could cause a little bit of a shock to the body. because maybe he's not getting the nutrients that he usually has. And it sounds like something that might be fat related, like I say, maybe the gallbladder or the liver.
Assalamu alaikum, how are you all? Walaikum salam. Please let me know. I get tummy nausea all the time. Tummy nausea?
All the time, or just in fasting, I wonder?
Yes, we say all the time, so I was just wondering.
Yeah, so all the time, I mean, that also could, I mean, it could be, what was that other lady talking about, reflux, could be gastritis. That is definitely a reason for nausea. It could even be something like the Crohn's disease or celiac disease. So why would someone have nausea when they're eating? It's normally when the body or the stomach can't really handle that nutrient. I would probably suggest that the diet might be a little bit high in fat. So fat is very, very difficult to digest, and we definitely overeat fat. It's something interesting I make clients do. So there's apps. There's a few apps on the phone. The one of it is called My Fitness Pal. The other one is called My Fat Secrets. And I encourage people to enter everything they eat for 3 days, just out of interest.
My Fitness Pal.
My Fitness Pal, yeah. Or My Fat Secret. And you enter everything you eat for 3 days. And then at the end, you look at the average of the macronutrients. How much protein did you take in? How much fat did you take in? And how much carbohydrates did you take in? And people are often shocked at the amount of fat that they take in. So our diet is really only meant to be 30% fat. But people will see it 40, 50% fat. And fat is what we say, it's got a high residue, irritates the lining of the gut. You know, if you pour oil into water, it floats on top, okay? Very hard to digest. And so then a lot of people who are maybe unable to digest fat might feel nauseous. And then, the other thing that can cause nausea is a bit of a fatty liver. So it'll be interesting to if you're diabetic. So a lot of people who are diabetic end up, I'm talking about chronic diabetes, over years, end up with a fatty liver. And I guess also how much has she been indulging in I know it's fasting, but a lot of people when they break that fast indulge quite a bit. And the liver can only take so much trauma, if I can say that. So fatty liver can also cause quite a bit of nausea.
If one is unable to have enough protein from food, then can one take protein supplements?
Yes, absolutely. So this is one supplement that I really do quite like. And that's because it's just sometimes easier to drink your protein. So, I mean, here you sitting in a studio, it's hard for you to get up and go and eat something. So how great would it be just to have a protein shake next to you and to be able to get some nutrients, and especially if you can add some veggies to it as well. People can now we can get frozen fruit. Take some frozen berries, take some frozen tropical fruit, add a protein powder, a bit of water, ice, and drink it. So I'm a fan of protein powders. I think we try to overcomplicate it, but at the end of the day, a protein powder is actually just dehydrated milk. It's whey protein.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for the electrolyte recipe. 1 or 2 liters of water. Can it be refrigerated at cold or stored in mixed room temperature? I'm 68 years old, had prostate removal 2 years ago, surgically feel well. Doors go to all. So bottom line is that can we have it refrigerated?
Yes. I actually prefer it refrigerated. I mean, I know my daughter, I have to make it ice cold for her to drink the electrolytes. I think because of the salt. So I would probably say it's easier to drink if it's colder.
And what foods should people avoid if the gallbladder was removed? And what foods should they eat?
Okay, so the gallbladder is like a sunlight soap. So if I give you some fatty dishes, if we've eaten dinner and we've obviously used oil, let's say in the dinner, and we try to wash the dishes with plain water, it's very difficult to get that fat off the plate. Okay. So the gallbladder is like sunlight soap. So if I give you the sunlight soap emulsifies the fat, and all of a sudden the dishes are clean very easily. So that's what the gallbladder does. It emulsifies the fat in our diet. So if we do not have a gallbladder, then we really cannot eat a high-fat diet. And this is now where you've got to drop your fat to about 20% intake. So you would have to eat very lean meats. You would have to really grill your foods, bake your foods, avoid oils, and then read labels of food. So if you pick up a packet of food, always look on the back. On the back, you will see per 100 grams and per serving. So for fat, you always want to look per 100 grams, and you'll look at the fat per 100 grams. So chips, 35 grams of fat per 100 grams, which means that 35% of what you're eating is fat. And if you don't have a gallbladder, I would recommend that they look for something that's under 10 grams of fat per 100 grams, which is actually a lot of foods. Potatoes got no fat, rice has got no fat, veggies has no fat, chicken's probably only about 4 grams of fat. So really maybe just to read labels.
Is calcium with collagen supplement good for speeding the healing process of a broken bone? What do you recommend? I'm using the Faizal supplement.
So collagen is a protein, and our bodies can make our own collagen if we eat enough protein. Okay, so when you drink collagen, so I'm not the biggest fan of collagen. When you drink collagen, we don't know. You're not going to drink and it's going to go to your bones, or it's going to go to your skin, or it's going to go to your hair. When you drink collagen, you're actually just adding protein to your diet. So what I would say for bone health, definitely a calcium, magnesium supplement that has some vitamin D and vitamin K in it. So you get like Menacol, very good. But then this person definitely needs to increase protein, because our bones are made of protein. The protein forms the building blocks of absolutely everything, everything in our body. So more importantly, is she having something like eggs for breakfast? Could this lady perhaps buy a protein shake and make a smoothie with a protein shake? I think that would be better.
Okay, the next question has come. It's a bit of a religious question. I'm just going to modify it so you can just come to assistance here. During the month of Ramadan, we have lots of products which we call halim. Halim, yes. The lady says that although it's got religious significance, as she puts it, I'm not going to comment on that, but she says that it gives you running tummy and burning in the stomach. Now, do you want to comment on it?
Yeah, so I love halim. Normally with my clients, I always tell them to break their fast rather with the halim and to rather stay away from all the fried foods. I think it depends how you make it. Everyone's got their own famous family recipe. So, one of my clients I know makes it a lot with almonds, and another one makes it a lot with the lentils. So I think with this lady, I'm guessing she uses lentils because almost like the dal, and legumes can be very acidic, and it's possibly that she's got a bit of irritable bowel, because a lot of people are very intolerant to lentils. They're very, very difficult to digest. If you think about, they've got that like a little husk around them, and they cause a lot of problems. So maybe she could use maybe like a split lentil might work better, or maybe just look for a slightly different recipe.
I bet you've been having fun during the show.
Yes, I have.
And how do I know that?
I'm not sure.
No. Because when you're having fun, time flies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've now reached.
We reached the end already.
We've got like a minute to round up. The questions are still pouring in. The lady that asked about the halim story says she makes it with only oats and wheat bix, and is it good? And then the last question I'm going to take is eating wheat bix and kefir good for my gut?
Yes, so kefir is a fermented food. But I mean, it's interesting because kefir is also very high in histamine. So some people, histamine can cause a lot of bloating. But yes, it's a fermented food. It's got a lot of natural probiotics. So I think that would be very good for her.
Okay. Danielle, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning. As I said, the questions are still pouring in. I would apologize for all those listeners who have forwarded questions you can't deal with, but unfortunately it comes again. So I've got like 30 seconds to ask you for your message to all listeners.
Yes, I think really we have to take it back to basics. I think there's so much on social media that's got all these lots of crazy messages. But I really just think we've got to take it back. Just think back to your grandparents or your great grandparents, and keep food simple, keep it healthy. Like I said, if it comes out of off the tree or out of the ground, then that's really good. And if it comes in a packet, I mean, it's highly processed and it's not good for you. And one of the biggest things to eating healthy, I feel, is if you really plan your meals and prep a bit of your meals, then you'll eat healthy. You know, if there's healthy food in your fridge, you'll eat healthy. And if any of your listeners want to follow me, I am on Instagram. It's at Danny, DANNI .health, where I make very easy recipes and give very easy
DANNI, yeah?
DANNI full stop .health. Yeah.
Okay. Daniel Roberts, thank you very much for joining me in the program. I really enjoyed the show. Just one thing, you spoke about eating from the ground. I recall somebody that I was interviewing previously who said, eat from God's factory, not man's factory.
Correct, absolutely.
And I think the answer is, enjoy the rest of the day, rest of the week, all the best to you, and thank you once again. Asif, thank you for the wonderful piece of work doing the text in the studio. Excellent, well done, thank you so much. And thank you to the Islamic Medical Association for having produced the show. From myself, Faizal MJ Suleman, do have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And the next show you'll be listening to is Dil Badal Day.
But that's nutrition for you.
Yeah. In fact, is it that?
Yeah. I did it should be passed away. Terrence Pillay.
Yes.
I did 3 shows.
Okay.